In his article, political philosopher John Rawls explains why civil disobedience is a necessary instrument of a nearly just society, which he defines to be a legitimately established democratic authority. Rawls draws his definition of civil disobedience from the works of H.A. Bedell, who defines it as a public act that is nonviolent, it is conscientious yet contrary to law, and is usually undertaken with an aim of bringing about a change in the law or policies of a government. Rawls contends that civil disobedience must be considered a political act because it is guided and justified by political principles, whose merit derive from a shared conception of justice. Rawls clarifies that the law being violated to initiate civil disobedience does not have to be that law which is perceived as unjust. To understand, one need only take into consideration the plight of Thoreau, who refused to pay taxes which he felt could pay for a war he felt to be unjust. Rawls points out there is no way to violate the government's policy directly, as when it concerns foreign affairs. Civil disobedience, as Rawls explains it, must be done with the highest degree of moral seriousness, for if it lacks this precious attribute, it carries the potential to destroy fidelity in the rule of law, an idea first introduced in Plato's work Crito. Using Socrates as a medium for which to convey his thesis, Plato underscores the importance of adherence to the rule of law as a means for its preservation. In order for a shared conception of justice to exist, a society must be a reasonably just democratic state. Rawls additionally denounces the notion that civil disobedience can be justified if it appeals to personal morality or religious doctrines. His view is contested by Peter Singer, who argues that although Rawls' definition of civil disobedience is sound, his idea of shared conception of justice is flawed, because within its theoretical framework there is no space for change. He says Rawls implies that once a nearly just society defines the parameters of its concepts of justice, whatever they may be, then whatever does not fall within those confines would be unjustified means from which to conduct civil disobedience. Rawls defines what justifies the act of disobedience when he emphasizes the necessity of restricting civil disobedience to serious infringements on the principles of justice, which he defines as 1. The principle of equal liberty, and 2. The principle of fair equality of opportunity. Of these two, Rawls comes to say it is much easier to make an appeal to an infringement of the second principle. In regard to injustices such as denying minorities the right to vote, or in other cases, religious groups being repressed, he simply states they are publicly incorporated into the recognized practice, if not the letter, of social arrangement. In other words, if these injustices would blatantly conflict with the principle of equal liberty, are woven into the fabric of a nearly, and I suppose that's why Rawls would call it nearly just society, then he says it's futile to take the avenue of civil disobedience to reverse the injustice because the injustice has become, or was from the start, entrenched. It is precisely circumstances such as these which compelled Herbert J. Storing to doubt the usefulness of civil disobedience and state, civil disobedience is an unsuccessful attempt to combine on the level of principle, revolution, and conventional political action. To Storing, civil disobedience only applies to the smallest margin of situation. The role of civil disobedience within a democracy, Rawls states, is one of the stabilizing devices of a constitutional system. Here, Rawls is careful to say that civil disobedience is only effective if used with due restraint and sound judgment. Thus, civil disobedience that is justified introduces stability into a well-ordered society, but more significantly, acts as a safety mechanism. He then says that civil disobedience ultimately, although not legal, is a morally correct way of maintaining a nearly just constitutional state. Rawls and Dr. King share similar sentiments to the effect which civil disobedience is meant to have on a society, claiming that civil disobedience forcibly rouses a community to confront what a minority suggests is an injustice. Therefore, the civil disobedience rouses the public conscious nature and creates a societal friction, and through extension, an acknowledgement of an infringement of sorts. To Rawls, this would be predominantly a breach of the principles of justice.